In the previous video, I showed you how I get students to count syllables in words using their fists, like this. In this video, I want to show you how I get students to count syllables in sentences. I do this by getting them to use their fingers, like this. Preferably using both hands, because if the sentence is a long sentence, then it's much easier to keep track of where they're at. I want my students to be comfortable with the idea that there are three types of syllables in English. There are stressed syllables, unstressed syllables with a full vowel, and syllables which have a member of the schwa family. I mark stressed syllables with a slash, as you can see. The stressed syllables always have a vowel that is clearly enunciated, and they have an abdominal push. I mark unstressed syllables which have a full vowel by putting a tilde under the vowel of the written syllable. These syllables have a very clearly enunciated vowel, but they don't have an abdominal push. I'm going to mark all the members of the schwa family with a dot placed under the written vowel. Members of the schwa family do not always have a vowel which is clearly enunciated, and they are never accompanied by an abdominal push. Some of the syllables that I mark as being members of the schwa family could in fact also be analyzed as being full vowels, unstressed. But my students have a lot of problems understanding reduction in English, and so I must admit I tend to put more reduced syllables than other people might. This gets them into the rhythm of English much more easily than other ways that I've tried. A sentence like this might come up quite early in the class conversation, and I decide it's one that I want to work on. I write it on the board, like this, and then I ask the class to count the number of syllables in the whole sentence, and I show them how to do it with their fingers. They count the number of syllables and decide that there are 12, and I write 12 on the board. Now I put my table on the right-hand side of the board and explain it to the students very simply. It takes about a minute to do that. There are stressed syllables which we'll mark with a slash. These have a vowel which is quite audible, and they have an abdominal push. There are members of the schwa family, and these have a vowel which is not very clear, and they have no abdominal push. And there are full vowels which are unstressed. These have a clear vowel, but they don't have an abdominal push. Now I want you to say the sentence out loud if you like, try giving abdominal push-ins, and try to work out which syllables you think are stressed. I give them a few moments to do this, and then I hold up the whiteboard marker to invite people to come out and put what they think the stressed syllables are. If there are mistakes, I hold up the whiteboard marker in one hand and the eraser in the other, and wait for somebody to come out and correct them until we arrive at the correct result. When there are mistakes, I usually ask people to say the sentence again and feel the pushes. I add a slash, I count the number of syllables, there are 4, and I put it where you can see. Then I say to the students, say the sentence again, and this time I want you to try to find all the members of the schwa family. I give them a few moments to do this, and then I hold up the whiteboard marker to invite anyone, to come out and mark the members of the schwa family. In this sentence, probably the two that would come out first would be the A of at and the third E of the word 11. When these are up, or whatever else is up, I hold up the whiteboard marker and say another one. The letter E of D is probably quite easy to find, and so that might come next. And then the second syllable, office, because they've now been saying office, and they would probably recognize that the I is in fact a schwa. Students are often quite surprised when I hold up the whiteboard marker again. Really, there are more? And so they look at the sentence differently, and they might find the O of 2 and the first E of 11. And then we would spend just a few moments working on the liaison between the two, to 11. Then they might find the TY of 20, and we would spend just a few moments saying the word so that they can feel the difference in the push, 20. And then we might go to the end of the sentence, 20 to 11. 20 to 11, at 20 to 11. And then I hold up the whiteboard marker and say another one. Oh my goodness, another one. Someone might come out and put a schwa sign under the E of office. I've put it in red here, but of course they would put it in the same color as all the others. If this were to happen, I would say to them, use your fists. How many syllables are there in this word? fus. There are 2 syllables. How many marks have you got? 1 stress and 2 schwa, that makes 3. There's a problem. And they would immediately know that they have to take that one out. The last one is the letter E of the word he. Now we have them all, and we count them. There are 8. I put the schwa mark and the 8. A little bit of arithmetic. 4 and 8 are 12. 12 is the number of syllables we know that there are in the sentence, and the job is done. Now I ask them to practice it a couple of times, feeling the abdominal pushes and feeling how the reduction system works around these. Note that at this point I have not ever said the sentence myself. The sentence came into the conversation because somebody said it to someone. I wrote it on the board, and from then on I have not actually said the sentence at all. All I've done is asked questions. I work on this sentence in exactly the same way. It's very slightly different. Let's have a look. Count the number of syllables in the whole sentence. There are 6. I put up my little table and say to the students, say the sentence again, say it to yourselves a couple of times, feel the pushes, and come out and mark the stressed syllables. The students mark the 2 stressed syllables, and then I put in the curly bracket, I put the stress mark and 2. And then I say, now find the members of the schwa family. There are 3, and they mark them, and then I add them to the table. They agree that window, the O of window, could not be a schwa, because nobody ever says window. And so we mark that. I add it to the table. 2 and 1 are 3 and 3 are 6. There are 6 syllables. We started with 6 syllables, and the sentence now is correct. And now we say it several times, using this to help us. She opened the window. She opened the window, so that they can get the feel of the stresses and the reductions. I don't have to do this too many times before the students get the hang of the system, and this is what I'm aiming for. I want them to be independent. It takes quite a lot of time the first time, the second time, and then after that they know how the system works, and it's very economical.